Hello, hello. You're mute, dear. Aw.
This is what happens when you don't practice.
You don't do enough shows with Sham.
Yes, I agree. And I must say that, I need to do, I think I just have to take over in March so that I get to practice, because I am really struggling with my competency level. Anyway, good evening, Shah.
Good evening, Malar. Lovely
And
to see you. I'm so
yes,
excited for.
can I say I feel it's lovely to see me on screen too.
You have to do something, right? Seriously.
Okay, let's not waste all the people's time who are probably trying to get into the show or watching later, and it's I know I want to say it's all about me, but we really do have an interesting guest today.
Yes.
Like, how often do you bump into people?
Listen, I won't use the word bump. I think it just kind of landed, like the experience landed on your lap, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then imploded, or exploded, or imploded, whichever way you want to look at it. But
Yeah.
yeah, how often do you have the opportunity to say, hey, this person is coming in, she's on transit for 12 hours or so, and she wants to do a 2-hour talk for whoever's there, and can get together and has the time to come and listen to her talk about her favorite topic, adaptability, right? And I'm like, is this woman psycho, loco, or what? She's got like 12 hours and she's going to run from one end of the city to the other end of the city to do this talk, and then run back to the airport and but she's she's not psycho or loco. She's got a generosity in spirit, which led her to say yes. And for you also, Malar, your generosity in offering her a place to hunker down, and rest and relax before she headed out.
But even then, right? To be fair, I mean, she doesn't know we're talking about her, so we can talk about.
She doesn't know, huh?
She doesn't know that we're talking about her. I think what's really interesting about her is I realize, because we are going to talk about adaptability, how quickly. I mean, even when I said, okay, would you like to come and bunk at my place for a couple of hours? It's not. If you were not adaptable, because you don't know what you're going into, what's the space that I'm offering, right?
Yep.
If you are not adaptable enough, you won't be able to take on the opportunities that come your way. So I think, the few, it feels like we've been with her for days, right? We attended her workshop, or, we had dinner together, and then, she bunked in with me for a couple of hours. All throughout, she's calm, she's cool. And I think that's why she calls herself humorous, because I think she's ready to take on anything, because she knows she has got her superpower, which is adaptability. And I think without further ado, like, I like looking at myself in the screen, but let's bring her on.
Yes, so let's have Jessica Breitenfeld with us so we can talk to her, and I can move this over here and put you down to your small micro look.
I know, right?
Hi, Jessica.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And like I asked you the question, how are you treating Goa?
And Goa is treating me very well. So I've been very polite, and I've been eating all the food that Goa has for me, and having all the sand in every hole that it could possibly be. And I am trying to get a tan so I can look like Malar.
Oh, you see? Yeah. Yep. Quite a bit of ways to go.
More going food.
Yeah. So I'm I mean, from the 2 hours that the few hours that we, not two, but a few hours that we had together, if I remember correctly, you have moved from Germany to Canada. From Canada, now you're made your home in Barcelona, right? And you have an interesting story about that shift that you made right from the start, right, from Germany to Canada to where you are right now. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, my mom was 8 months pregnant and she wanted to leave boring Germany where her life was so predictable and I was in her belly. So she took me to Canada and I grew up in Canada in the cold, unhappy until 24. And then I graduated and I traveled the world trying to find happiness and healing from my back pain. That's why I'm in Goa with a bone set. And through all those journeys, I became a therapist and I decided I need sunshine. I cannot live in Canada. And during COVID, I thought, I want my career to go off. Maybe I want to get married. Maybe I want to have little things called kids. Maybe I'll go to Germany. That could be a better life. And then I go, I sell everything. I get rid of everything. I go to Berlin and then I realize it rains a lot. And nobody told me that it rains so much. And I went, I'm going back. I don't care. And that was the Germany experience. I lived in Munich a couple years ago, but I just really relate to the Spanish, the adaptable way of living. They cannot predict their futures. They have to go day by day because the economy, the corruption, they just have to smile and say, fortunately, today's a good day.
C'est la vie.
C'est la vie.
So, on that note, since you brought in the word adaptability, and adaptability is your work, your life's work. Tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say adaptability IQ, right? What does that mean? I mean, we've got EQ, we've got intelligence, quotient. What is this about? There's another one that we have to know about.
No, you already know about it because every day we're adapting and improvising. You've been doing it 20 times today already. And so EQ has 12 competencies underneath it. And little did anyone know that one of those skills that make you emotionally intelligent is actually called adaptability. And it became extremely popular in the last couple of years because of something that rhymes with MOVID. Right?
Move it. That
COVID made us adaptable. And we made us realize that we are adapting all the time and that we could probably deal with stress and uncertainty in a better way. And so now I'm teaching the 3 steps. I've been teaching it before, but it wasn't so popular. Now, thank you, COVID. Now people are interested to learn how to lead in uncertainty with confidence.
Okay. And that 3 steps, right? How have you used it in your life? If you could share something, well, it can be dramatic. Personal. It can be, personal.
Dramatic.
Dramatic, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So sad story. I told you guys that I was traveling to fix my back pain. And I couldn't pursue the same things that every North American girl kind of wants, right? The house, the picket fence, the handsome husband with perfect teeth. And I couldn't because I had incredible back pain. And so it took me on a journey. I went to 48 countries and I lived in 5 continents. And I was completely always alone, adapting to the new information that I got about how to heal myself. And finding out maybe it's psychosomatic. Maybe it is because of my hip. Maybe it is because of this, because of that. Try this, try that, try that. Trying hundreds of things. I laugh because it's a sad ending, because I still have the back pain. And yet I have a 20-year experience of being a traveler, adapting to what is in front of you, even if you don't like it, adapting to the crap in life. You can't ignore it. It's there. So you better have a 3-step way of dealing with it so that you don't stress out every time something that you don't want happens in your life.
And what's the 3 steps?
Oh, thanks for asking. The first one is an L. Which way? 2 L's make a winner. An L, it spells lab. So we have the L for the most important. I'm going to give you a quiz. What's the most important communication skill that starts with an L? Yes, Malar. Listen. Yes. First, we have to listen very well to do the next step, which starts with an A. Once you listen, you can do either la 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 or okay, I accept you. So once you accept it, you accept reality, whether it stinks or not, you can now decide to go to the last step, which is B for build. Then you can find a solution to the problem. Without these three, you're just a positive thinker. Without the three, you're possibly living in a la, 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 la. I don't need to lose 20 kilos. La, la, la. Chubby is the new thin. You're living in a world that isn't real, and so you can't solve it. And then you live in continual stress because you're not adapting to what's
right in
there.
front of you. Yeah. So if I go back to your story about your back, right? Your L, your listen, would it be correct to say you listen to your body because your body was giving you signals of what needed to be done differently or changed? And then the A was accepting that there was something wrong, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not this perfect. I'm not okay. And I needed to accept that and work with it, right? And would the build then be, so this is not so clear for me, the build, would that be you trying the different ways to build on one technique over the other? This is not working, this solution is not working, so what's the next one? What's the next one? What is the next one? Would that be an accurate?
You know, after you build, you try something, you try and collaborate with reality in a positive way. If it doesn't work, you have to go back to the L. You got to start again. Listen, accept it, and build something else. Build it, try it, do it, trial and error.
So it's an iterative process that you need. You may have to go through many times before you figure out what it is that you need to.
I still don't know what it is. Yeah. But the B is really about the 2 secret words that I have for you that I'm going to share with you. That once you use these words, that you guys were in the workshop in Kuala Lumpur about 3 weeks ago. So you already know it, but the viewers don't. These 2 words really have the power to change the attitude towards the crap that you don't want to deal with, that you don't want to build with, you don't want to collaborate with this, you don't want to. But you can, once you kind of shift how you see it.
And the 2 words being and?
Good. And the first one?
Oh, it's not the first one. My God.
Yes. Yes is I hear you.
Okay. So that's the word as well. Okay. I just hooked on to the end.
That would just be one secret word. The marketing wouldn't be so sexy if I just said one secret word.
Yes.
2 for 1.
And there you go.
Yeah. So it's like, yes, I have the situation, and I will work towards something positive, something collaborative, something that can possibly solve it. Where most of the time, we are trained to be safe. And safe never innovates anything, and safe never solves anything. It just keeps you in the box of discomfort, which is your comfort zone. And so the end allows you to add you to it. Add your like this hope that the corporate world never talks about. But human motivation is nothing without hope. You can't motivate anyone if they don't have a little bit of hope and in your goal. And so this is the like, yes, oh, I hate it. And let's try this. Instead of, yes, I hate it, but I've already tried this. But not now, not you, not me, not, oh, it's karma. Oh, no, it's just what I have to learn. It's God's lesson. Yes, but not now. Yes, and it's karma. And I'm going to try this new thing in Goa. Yes, and I'm tired. And I have to keep going. Because the mission is bigger than the giving up.
The giving up. Thank you for that. It's not an easy story to share. I can almost feel the pain that you're going through. So thank you for sharing that with us, Jessica. I also at the same time want to say hello and good evening to Gerald Fernandez. It's good to see you back, Gerald. Good evening to you. Gerald's calling in from Kuala Lumpur. And I'm going to hand it over to Malar to do her magic and ask the magical questions that she usually asks.
Ta-da! Kel is back. Yeah. Wow. I've got so many questions for you, I think, but I'm going to start with one. Now, I liked what you said when you said, when we feel safe, we never innovate. Innovation happens
Mm.
really when we come to probably a tight corner, right? And I also like the fact that you said, sometimes when we choose the safe path, we are choosing comfort in our discomfort.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
It's, I think there's a lot to mull in that space, right?
To
Uh,
Malar. Mhm.
yeah. So, how does one differentiate? Because I think there's a spectrum where adaptability is concerned. I cannot say, I'm not sure whether we meet anyone who's totally not adaptable, because I think at some point we would have adapted unconsciously, but there's that whole spectrum. But what we do know is that the kind of uncertainty that's happening all around us now needs us to be more consciously more adaptable. Otherwise, we can't cope with the changes that's happening. I think one is it's going to impact us because you are going to go into your safe zone, right?
Mm.
On one hand, right? On the other hand, we can't be relevant, right? So, is there a way? So, first, let's talk about at an individual level, right? Now, at an individual level, is there a form of measurement that I can use to one first see how adaptable I am? So, what would be the measurement, if there is?
Mm.
All right. And how adaptable do I need to be relevant?
Wow. The first one is easy to answer because a wonderful company a few years back created with artificial intelligence a measurement of 15 qualities of adaptable people. And in
Mhm.
20 minutes, under stress, you fill this out and you find out where you're weaker in grit, in mindset. And you can find it even if it's the environment that you're in that makes you less adaptable, which means cultural shift or quitting. And so you can really see, oh, I'm weak in this area, but it's not me, it's because of this. This is how it's been here. Or you can see, oh, it's totally me. I need to I need to shift a couple things up here and up here. So
Mm.
that's an easy fix. Then you just have to do it. Then you have to work on those skills, that mindset, that trusting the intuition, trusting your gut, trusting that you are capable to deal with uncertainty, not freezing or fleeing, right? It's a natural response as humans. We do not like change. We do not want to adapt. I want to sit on
Mm.
my sofa and I want those same chips that I love, and I want to sit next to the person that makes me feel safe. And I don't want to go talk to the neighbors from another country, to go learn something else, to try a new diet, to lose 20 kilos. I don't want to do all that. I just want to be comfortable and happy. And so it's very fearful and very brave to consciously decide to be adaptable because then it all comes your way. Unfortunately, kind of sucks, but it's the way VUCA is, right?
Mm.
We can't run away anymore.
Mm.
Mm.
Regarding your personal side, I you would find out in this scale, which is called the AQAI, AQAI, and we do these assessments. So you can find that out. It's very reasonable to do that. I can get you that later. And then you have to look at actually your stress levels. That's probably the easiest one if you don't want to do the test, is
Mm.
how well do I deal with things that just pop up? And am I freaking out when they happen? Or do I go, ooh, where's the opportunity in this? If you have that kind of a mindset, which most trainers do, then you're probably okay. People who like to stay in their boxes of 30 years in the same accounting office, in the same corner, in the same house, in the same coffee shop every morning, they are in trouble. Good thing they're close to retirement.
Mm. Can I jump in, Malar? Yeah. I'm going to go back to that measurement question, right? And I mean, we are because we're still in the measurement part of it. So yes, there is a tool. We can use that to measure. Number two is you can look at stress levels, and that's still individual, right? I'm looking at my stress level and I'm saying, am I freaking out, or am I, okay, take a deep breath in. Let's see what I can do about this situation, right? Now, if I put myself into the shoe of a leader, I'm a leader of a team, right? And I'm looking at my team. I've got whatever the number is, yeah, and I'm looking at my team. Are there any? How do I look at them and say, hey, this is an adaptable team, and this is a work in progress team, right? This is totally, we have to build from ground up, right? So what would be the signals that a leader would say, just at that very, big picture macro levels, to have a sense of, right, I think this is where we are in terms of adaptability, and what do we now need to do, right? Whether then we go and measure it a little bit more in detail. So what would be the signals that they will see, they will hear, maybe even feel as a leader, that this is where my team is in terms of adaptability?
If you're adaptable, there shouldn't be too much, let's say, workplace unhappiness. So HR can give you an indication of the turnovers, of the talent that you're losing, of the safety that people feel at work. If there's a place where they can share their ideas, if they can be human, and they're not going to tell you straight to your face since you're the boss and you paid the bills. So you have to look at it on like a wider scale of, have you had innovative market leading ideas? Do you ask the people on your team that are from different parts of the country, how do you do it in your country? Are you asking people to see it out with a different perspective? If you're not asking, they're not telling you. And so I love the example of Glovo or Uber Eats. And being in India right now, there's rickshaws, and there's that famous program, the great business example of the thousands of lunches that are delivered through the city every day. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, the Tiffin Wala. Yeah.
Tiffin, yeah. I wonder who thought about Uber Eats, in Europe. I bet it wasn't some guy from San Francisco in his suit in his corner office. That idea came from someone who saw how efficient it was, who has been to India, someone who has been to the Middle East, who has seen, someone who's been to Malaysia and seen the three cultures work together with respect. Someone who has lived in Malaysia is able to take a diverse team and make it work because they have the experience and the sight to see that. And if you have a monoculture where no ideas are made and you're not extremely productive or efficient and you're just making it because you charge a lot, and the competition is innovating and you haven't innovated and your team's not thinking of new ideas, you are in trouble. Maybe not now, but in a couple of years when the market gets faster and faster. So innovative ideas, psychological safety, and the international sharingness of the team.
It's so scary. I was just writing the word psychological safety because I was going to say that what you've described is psychological safety, and there you go. Lo and behold, you've said that. Okay, so you are measuring adaptability in terms of their happiness. So from employee surveys. And you're looking at what they're happy about, or exit interviews, and you're saying, okay, what is it that people are happy about and what they're not happy about? You're measuring adaptability in terms of your ability, a leader's ability to pull out different ideas or different points of view and have a healthy discussion around, or a debate, if you will, around whatever it is that we're discussing right now. Would that be a good, right summary of what you've just said?
A very good listener. And a great summarizer.
All right, thank you. Okay, now that I've had my simile, we can go to maybe you repeat the second question that you had for Jessica.
I'm not sure whether it matters anymore, but because I'm just adapting myself to the situation, because I have a different question for you. Now, because I think you mentioned stress, right? And when we talk about stress, because you said one way is how do we respond when it comes to our own stress levels, right? And so, and you also mentioned fight, flight, freeze, right? So I'm just curious, right? So I think stress, sometimes we think we are stressed, but we are able to react or respond to the situation. We continue our ability to be to mobilize ourselves to do something, right? Yeah, because then we are able to do something. We are either fight, flight, we're doing something in response to the change that is happening. Whether it makes sense, whether it'll work, those doesn't matter. So would it be fair to say that if I'm able to continuously try something, that means be hopeful and not be helpless and hopeless, I don't freeze, because if I'm stressed and I don't know what to do and I don't do anything and I try and hide, right? Then I have no opportunity to be adaptable. I won't know what works, what doesn't work. So is that fair enough gauge of what you were saying about stress just now?
Yeah, I love it. The freeze, we just see it. Like, I'm from Canada, so you see a bear. Some of them you have to freeze with and play dead, and others you have to run from. It's very important to know when to do which, right? Depending on the situation, you adapt with freezing or fleeing. One can save your life, and the other one means you're dead meat. And
Yeah.
that wasn't. I like what you. I like how you guys are good summarizers. I love it. Of course, you know a lot about this because you're experts in the field, and just because this is a new word to you that you haven't heard perhaps as much as the other words, it's like you know so much about it because you're training it. Any program that trains like innovative thinking, disruptive thinking, psychological safety, right? Communication skills, just in itself, this intuition, this leadership edge, this gut feeling training, all these things that make a person confident in the moment, knowing that they know how to get out of a sticky situation. That life is a sticky situation. And if you don't have the confidence to trust the idea that pops in your head, you're in trouble. So confidence building is a big part of it. And that's why there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of trying out the new behavior, changing the neural connections in the brain that says, ooh, I'm not so good at dealing with this. Okay, I can do it because the mission is bigger than the fear right now. And so you need motivation, obviously, on the team. And if you don't have motivation on the team, nobody wants to adapt anyway. They don't care. So there's obviously a lot of pieces, but teams that thrive understand people must be motivated and happy, yeah, or very desperate, or else innovation doesn't come.
That's right. Yeah, but you mentioned one scenario just now where you said if you don't adapt and change, you sit in the coffee shop and do the same thing all your life, right? My my question is, what's wrong with that? Because if I am able to die in the coffee shop for the rest of my life by not making any changes, I'm surviving. I may not thrive, but I don't know, right? But I'm okay with that. I think this is life. What's wrong with that? I don't have to be there.
You can sit in the coffee shop, but if the coffee shop, well, it's more the owner of the coffee shop because we're talking about leadership, right? Leaders must lead. So if this show was called Live Your Life with Contentment, maybe I would say, yeah, enjoy your life, adapt, and have gratitude. Leadership requires, if you own the coffee shop, you better get an SOS system. If you own the coffee shop, you better ask for cash instead of credit card to save on those costs. You better have vegan donuts nowadays because the competition across the street does. So in the competition world, it's a little different than the spiritual world. I don't know. What do you think? What's your favorite coffee shop in Malheur? Or do you want to die?
No. It's the coffee that I make. I love my Nescafe Tari that I make. I love it. It's really good. So I save a lot on coffee. No, I think the reason I ask that question is that I think when, sometimes whether we are individuals or leaders, right, we know there is a pushback to why should I change? And sometimes there's just too much of change to cope with. But forget about too much of changing. I think adaptability is really important because if whatever you're doing now is not working and you need to get different results, what you're doing now is not working. So that's why I need to figure out what else can I do, what else can I do differently. I think that's where I was coming from. And also to think about, really, again, on the scale of adaptability, maybe what is the consequence of not adapting sometimes, right? And that's why I think your example of whether you're drinking coffee or whether you're the coffee shop owner makes a difference, right? Because if you travel in Malaysia, if you go to smaller towns, you would I would remember how it was 30 years ago, right? And then, I mean, of course, because I'm from the city and I see so much of innovation here, and I'm thinking like, can I show you something so that you can progress? And progress here means I'm hoping that you would have better life, better access to a lot of things. If you don't want to be rich, but at least you can do more things in lesser time and have better quality life, whatever better means. And I think you've said that, whether we are looking at the spiritual world, and again, right, I think for me it's also important for us to not to hide behind contentment when we're actually complacent.
That's a
Nice.
nice play on words. Nice one, Mother.
Yeah, because some people, I don't want to change because it's uncomfortable. So I tell you I'm contented, but I've actually chosen complacency. Uh, right. So again, whether you feel fulfilled with what you do, I mean, it's really between existing and thriving. And I know we're playing with words, right? The other thing that I thought you said, which was so super powerful, that got me thinking, is that when you said exit interview, and I was thinking, hey, what has this got to do with exit and interview? One question that popped in my mind, and I want to just share that with you, is that if we were not happy at work, we resign because we're not happy. Better, we look at better opportunities because something is better. That means it's not good enough. My current status is not good enough. Now, when things are not working out well for me in my current job, if I feel psychologically safe to talk about it and someone has listened to it, accepted it, and built on it, maybe I won't leave. And I felt like, I said, oh, that's something we would have never thought, how adaptability is important for retention, right? And that really really caught my attention in terms of what you were saying. So yeah, just bouncing that off you in terms of what I took away, I think, right? And but I think what's important now for us is to really look at it, that how does adaptability show up at organizational level, right? In organization, how do I know an organization is adaptable? Now, with that, one of a lot of times, I think in innovation programs, they tend to bring Fuji films as an example, right?
Fuji.
Fuji, right?
Ah.
Yeah, films
Kodak.
basically. Yeah. Kodak. Sorry, Kodak. Wrong one. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Kodak. Now, and this, I'm throwing the question, and I ask myself, now, if so, there's this again spectrum in the line, right? Sometimes we believe strongly that this works. It's a deep set belief and passion, not because I don't want to be adaptable, but I truly believe that this is needed for the future, right? Right. So I believed EQ was important when I first started off, which was 25 years ago. But only today, EQ is really getting the kind of attention that I had wished 20 years ago, right? Well, I stayed on track, I suppose. It's working. I'm grateful for that. But when we look at certain organizations and certain businesses, and then we tell them, you're not changing, but how do we now balance? Do I believe that this is something for the future? Should I persist, right? Or should I shift? How do you do that at an organizational level?
That's a big question. You have the leaders, right? Steve Jobs is known to said to his engineers, I don't know how many years ago, engineers, I want you to create a touch screen. And they all said, impossible. What did he do to those engineers? He
Probably
killed them.
sack them.
No, he sacked them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't see the vision that he had. If you cannot see it, you cannot create it. If you don't imagine that there's a great man out there that's compatible to you and that you can have a nice life with, you will not attract, you will not even see it if Prince Charming rides up on his white donkey in front of you. And so the vision is super important. And I was reading the stats on my colleague's book on how many times these leaders fail. Walt Disney failed how many times before his first movie? Like 20 times. So he was a big loser 20 times until someone said this is going to work. If he would have given up at 10, we would not have Walt Disney. So yes, his ideas, he didn't adapt to a newer trend. He went on what he thought is going to work and what he was passionate about. So this is, I would say, it's not exactly the idea about like this or having a vision. I think it's like when Walt Disney got rejected 19 times, he said, oh, I hear you. You don't like it. I accept that. That sucks. 18 times before, I've been rejected for my ideas that I believe in, and I'll send it to one more publisher. And that's the adaptable mindset within following your vision, within the reality, within, it's just the innovative mindset. It's just another word, I think, secret's out. It's just another word for creativity and innovation and thinking outside the box and not just having a black and white vision of the world.
But it also makes me think when you talk about, I mean, I look at it as perseverance and persistence, basically.
Yeah, correct.
Get turned down, and I'm thinking, and you know, I think when I get turned down, of course I'll feel down, but if I want to persist, I will look at my idea again and make some tweaks. I will do a check. I may not change it, but I will pause and say, okay, there's something needs changing, right? And basically, I'm checking for relevance, right? I think that 18 other times I'm tweaking something little bit to try. For me, that comes across as adaptability because I now know that whatever I did, you know, the first time I sent in a script, it did not work. What is it that I want to shift? It's like for us when we do presentation, right? If I'm doing the same, I go to one client and I make a presentation. If they give me feedback, good. But then I didn't get the job, then it forces me to say, okay, why didn't I get the job? Which is where I'm going to go and listen, use your lab process and say, okay, where can I get the feedback from? If they give me feedback, good, I'll listen. I'll accept it and build on that. But I think that lab process, I suspect it also happens when we are experiencing what we call as failure. But you know, failure here is really figuring out what didn't work. And when something doesn't work, I try something else. I don't say it's the end of the road. So I thought, you know, I saw it that way, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interestingly, to be honest, adaptability intelligence was rated #1 by LinkedIn and by McKinsey magazine in 2021. And it was a tie. Resilience also won. You're right.
Yeah. Again, right, if we look at the study of resilience, can you be resilient if you're not adaptable, if you're not willing to change?
Exactly.
Right?
Or can you be resilient if you're not you don't have the perseverance, right? That also gives you a bit of builds your resilience. Yeah. To me, I see it's almost like a coin that has two sides or different shades of gray, if you will. So on one hand, you said the Disney example, and that alludes to perseverance, like Mala was saying, right? Didn't work the first time, went back again. We are assuming that there were some tweaks, change something, you know, built on what was the feedback, and then, you know, moved on to the next person that he needs to talk to. Kodak, on the other hand, could also be seen as the same. We are persevering. This thing we feel is very, very important for the world. This is what it should be. It will be that way.
Should.
You could, right, should,
Should.
could and would. Right? I mean, I'm using my language. I don't know what language they use, but I'm just going into their shoes and saying, hey, we're persevering. We're persevering in the belief that this product is very good. This idea is brilliant, right? So it's almost like different shades of gray, and someone can mistake adaptability for perseverance, perseverance for adaptability, and just a thought. That's it.
I caught you on the word should, Sharmini. Is like, it should, yes. Printed pictures is a great product. Great. Without feedback. And that's where the psychological safety comes in. It's like you have to be able to ask and hear the answer. And so if you don't hear what the people are saying, we rather have digital pictures. I want to take 1,000 selfies. If you don't hear them, you're going to go on with your great idea. Oh, it's a great idea to do this. Great. Okay, who else thinks it? Do your customers think that? Okay, does your husband think that? Do your kids agree with you? Because if not, you're not a leader. You're on your own narcissistic idea going towards a future where people aren't following you or buying your stuff. So great. Persistence.
So it comes back to the listen, the L, right? Who are you listening to? Are you listening to the people who matter in your world? Yeah.
Listen,
right.
They don't like printed pictures anymore, except that was my entire dream, and digitalize.
Okay, so on that note, let's move to a question that we have on the chat, and this is from Ashok. Ashok is our co-host. He's actually learning. Actually, we should make him do work. Why is he doing work behind the scenes? Yeah. Okay, in an organization transformational initiative, the change is more of a business case owned by the leaders, but the individual contributors may not want to adapt to the changes. They could be very tired in the last 3 years due to COVID. How can Lab help the individual contributors see and do things differently?
Shall I?
Yes, take and go.
The lab is it's a mindset, and it requires a cultural shift. If the top people don't believe in listening, accepting, and building, and they believe in like, I have a dream and I don't care what you say because you're 3 tiers down from where I sit, you're not going to innovate. It's like you need 18% of the people on the team to believe in you to create a shift, the tipping point. And so you need the people who believe in this. They believe in creating the space where people can contribute, where the introverts have a space, where their ideas are heard, where ideas are taken from other cultures, ideas, other religions. If you don't have a space and meetings that encourage contribution, you will not get the build part. You will get the follow the same path. And so these people, these individuals on the team, it's not going to help. Individuals on the team, it's not going to help if Bob in accounting does it, but the boss tells him to shut up every time he has an idea that isn't mainstream and isn't in Harvard's textbooks. So unfortunately, yeah, you can have your own, I'm adaptable. But if the environment, which is one of the things we measure, if the environment does not support innovative, free thinking, bye-bye, Kodak.
Okay. And Ashok, I'm sure he's going to ask a follow-up question if he wants to drill down on your answer. Let's shift the focus a little bit to this part of the world, right? Asia. And it's also an opportune time because you've been traveling quite a bit in this part of the world. You've been doing your speaking engagements. You've been chatting to people. And so you want to kind of have a look into your head and see what is it that you are seeing that are trends in leadership adaptability that you notice in Asia, right? And it could be patterns that are working for leaders here in this part of the world, and it could also be patterns that could be jeopardizing them or putting us in a difficult place and we're not aware of it. Yeah, so both, if you could give us some your thoughts.
Thank you for that question, because when I was speaking in the Philippines, people in the audience, the participants were saying, I don't even get what you're talking about. Like, what do you mean we can say no? And okay, in Europe, because Asia adapts to the European style, when you're in pure Asia, it was a shocking question to me, because I understand in the collective mind frame, in the saving face culture, things are changing. But in India, it's not. Things are changing, but there are cultural differences for sure. And so the head shake, which actually means yes, I'm listening, right? It doesn't mean yes or no, if I understand that right. Yes.
Correct.
And okay kind of means no, as I'm understanding in Goa. And so these are the unclear, if I may be so straight, the unclear communication when a no is not a no and a yes is not a yes, because of the hierarchy. That, if I can use India's example, I don't have enough experience in Malaysia. I was only there for those 12 lovely hours with you, but I've lived in India and worked in the Middle East, was in Saudi a couple months ago. And the hierarchy is very strong still. And a big complaint that Europeans have with the Eastern cultures is they say, is the project done? Yes. Do you need anything? No. And then they find out 2 weeks later that the project is only halfway, because there's a fear of authority. And where if you look at Google tried to find out what makes teams feel safe to say yes and no, and be authentic and real and be realistic about what's going on so that they can actually get stuff done when it needs to get done. They found that equal speaking time is one of the two most important things that a team needs. And so when you have a strong hierarchy, when the boss doesn't come to the training, when the top people decide everything for the bottom people, you cannot be very innovative, because the bottom people know what's going on the ground, and they know what a tiny 1% shift could be. 1% in the serving of the tea, 1% a better quality milk, 1% better air conditioning, 1%. Yeah, but who wants to listen to a waiter? Who cares about a waiter's idea? But that 1% that he can give, that 1% that the cook, that 1% that the dishwasher can say that these plates break less, 1%, 1%, 1%, and the boss hears it, buys different products, he could have a 12% increase in profit and customer satisfaction by having just listened to the lower people. And that is something that Google, as a milestone, amazing company, has taught us with Project Aristotle. Equal speaking time, flattened hierarchy.
Okay, so what you said is that the one thing that we could do differently is to make hierarchies flatter, access to the power center, shorter, easier, more reachable, right? What is it that we are doing that is very adaptable, that we we know it's in our whether it's in our DNA because it was naturally in our DNA or nurtured through experiences. What is it that leaders here you see do differently in terms of being adaptable? And I think we need to call it out, because like you said, sometimes we don't give praise where it's needed, or we don't acknowledge strength when it's also needed, right? So what have you noticed that leaders here, they kind of do this and they do it really well, regardless of what it's done in the West, whether it is or not done in the West, that's that's the second point. So what's been your observation?
Well, I'd like to take a comparison to Canada, where I'm from. Nothing has changed in Canada in 20 years. I swear, like no new laws, nothing really innovative. It was pretty good. It was pretty equal 20 years ago when I left. And then you come to Asia, where 20 years ago, like what was happening in India with women in leadership? Well, Pakistani had a woman president before America ever had one, right? Like the change that's happening in the Middle East and Asia, I like to put it together as it's the East, as we say, is I was in Saudi Arabia, and they have a lot of money, but they're throwing money into becoming the best by 2030. And what do they need? They need time, they need experience, they need money. And if they don't have two of those, they use their money to get there. And so this vision, this commitment, it's almost like this drive. Like, people in Canada, what a great country. Great. So apathetic, so much depression. And when crap hits the fan, as we say, when COVID came, Canada was the second most affected emotionally country in the world. Depression, people turning on each other, families not speaking anymore. Whereas in countries that are used to dealing with inflation, difficulties, perhaps uncertainty around the corner, you guys know how to adapt, because it's unfortunately, it hasn't been so easy for your countries. But having it all easy, I'm learning so much. I learned so much from Asia. That's why I love working here, because I can't learn too much from the West. They have their formulas, and they don't like to change because they know they're the best. Asia has said, we're not the best, and we're going to learn how to be the best. That mind frame is gold. And the women in Asia, oh God, you guys are mind-blowing, powerful women that are in a more challenging environment than we grew up, and you guys know how to handle difficult stuff, whereas we just go, right? Powerful women.
As I heard Jessica, I'm thinking of comparison between countries that have it or have had it good versus the countries that are, moving up, right, and challenging us. I'm thinking of Singapore versus Malaysia. And I've used that same comparison, similar comparison before, that Malaysia is more resilient. The people are more resilient because Malaysians bounce back pretty quickly because you're used to disruption. Right. Whereas Singapore tends to be a little bit more on the even keel. Things have been good. So when there is a wrench thrown, a spanner thrown into the works, then it gets a little bit like, okay, we are not too sure how to handle this. Who can we look to? And we look immediately to the government for guidance. So yep, I can see where that's coming from. We've got a couple of people putting comments, and which is so happy. Like, I'm like, so long we haven't seen comments on the comments. But Jay.
Before I read out Jay's question, right? I'm hearing two parts. I mean, even with the example that Shamini gave about Malaysia and Singapore, more than Malaysia and Singapore, I just want to talk about Malaysia. I want to throw it up to you, right? Because I think you were right when you brought up the COVID example, right? That the nations or the people who faced more adversity coped better. So we heard stories. I heard stories. Actually, this may not be a Malaysian story. So, for example, some people who couldn't have their helpers at home put up the issues as to they were so stressed and depressed that there were no helpers, right? Why? Because that's an adversity that I'm not used to. Or maybe I've never been through adversities, right? So when you talk about Malaysia and you say, in this part of the world where, are we adaptable or not, right? Now, we may not be adaptable in saying no to our bosses, but we are adaptable by saying yes to our bosses because the bosses are powerful in this part of the world. And you're absolutely right, because when we are reporting to power that is out of this country, usually the Western world, right? They tell us, we talk about work-life balance. I know this with the clients I've worked with, right? They set the culture and say, look here, you will work with my hours, which means that you work your Malaysian hours plus the hours I am working if you want me to respond to you. We are adaptable with that. That's why we are resilient, right? So what I'm getting from this is this, right? Two things I'm getting. One is, I think, when we have more uncertainty, less resourceful, less powerful, anything that's less, there is adversity. And when there's adversity, you want to survive and thrive. Adaptability is a natural gift. On the other hand, I think what's probably happening I don't know whether it'd be fair to say it's the Western world, probably even in Singapore, as Sham says, is that the other thing that we do is we try and get structures so that we become automated, so that everything is safe, rules, regulation. And the more regulated we become, there is less, we cannot be adaptable because you have to follow the rules.
Yep.
Right? There's no navigating around these issues, right? And so what happens is people expect predictability, and the smallest issue that becomes unpredictable, and when you've not practiced it, I think that's where you talk about COVID and mental health issues, right? When you're talking about it, why do the most resourceful people fell into this mental health trap during COVID? Because we didn't practice those muscles. So what I am hearing is that we are all adaptable. We have adapted. Probably the muscles are different. Some of us had bigger muscles than others, right? Situationally. But we know that if you don't adapt, then you know that you're going to feel helpless in situations that you need something to happen. And that then leads into not just results, but basically unhappiness in life.
Hallelujah. Amen.
All right. And now going to Jay's question, and we have Gaurav Paul, who has put in a comment which is interesting. He says the sun is important besides having a sunny mindset. So I'm assuming it could be,
very philosophical. It's very,
no, it's
very
environment, right? I can be adaptable, but if I'm in a space, I think if I'm in a space where I'm not encouraged to give out my ideas, right, or not having the psychological safety to speak, nothing will happen, right? So that's the point. Now, Jay, I think you've met Jay. So she says, "Hi, Jessica. Nice to see you again. Good discussion, ladies. Adaptability is a powerful skill, empowers one to work around potential challenges for better outcomes for human. How do we encourage adaptability culture in organizations?" I'm not sure whether you've answered it with a Google example, but I'm going to give it to you so that she doesn't get upset.
We're adapting.
Oh, by the way, if I can interrupt and say loudly to the whole world, "Happy birthday, Jay. It's her birthday today."
Oh, okay. Happy birthday.
Okay, now you can answer the question if you remember.
How to encourage it? I think it's human motivation 101, I suppose. When you're adaptive, it means that you're seen, right? And so it's not so complicated. Google found out that people need to have empathy and have equal speaking time to be on a thriving team. That's just human relationships 101. So to motivate people to be adaptive, they're doing it anyway. You just have to let them see that there's actual steps. It's actually a mindset. Jazz people use it. Improv actors use it. Messi, to win the World Cup, he used it. He just makes clear decisions in moments of uncertainty by controlling his mind, by believing in his decision, by having all the information and not freezing. Who wouldn't want to have that? I don't know. It's stress management if you want to dumb it down, make it sound less fancy, but it is dealing confidently with uncertainty and leading even though you don't know what's happening. So
and I like that that one component that you it's about acknowledging a person's efforts, right? It's acknowledging and knowing that the person is doing that, empathy and what you mentioned, and that calling out of that effort, and that person has contributed something in his or her own way, right? Yeah, that's interesting. Now, Ashok has got another question that he's tabled, and I think that would bring us to almost the question before the end. Yeah. So leaders need to create the culture, but to do that, leaders must first be aware of why and when they are not adaptable. What would be the best way to help leaders be aware and hold these uncomfortable, adaptable conversations?
I believe that it is what was developed by scientists, this adaptability intelligence, adaptability quotient. It measures you under stress, not just what you wish you were, but it measures you under stress. You can see what you're missing out on. I'll just type it in the private chat. I can't seem to contribute to the people in the audience, but it's it's new. It's not just personality, because we know our personalities, but that doesn't quite tell us if we can adapt. You know, we have to know if our environment is supporting us or if it's the fault of the environment. You know, not be hard on ourselves. And so this measures in the environment and the capability as well, and in your character. So maybe you have 2 out of 3 and you just need to shift to a different culture, or you have one of them and you might need to go learn from other people in a more adaptable culture. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. 1 hour, so fast.
No, I still have one last question. I'm sorry.
You wanted to ask the one last question.
I promise.
So the last question is the last question.
About time. Remember, we slept together.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Now, so Jessica, is there a possibility that too much of adaptability may not be good? Last question.
I want to ask this question. Okay.
No, because it just means dealing well with confidence in stressful situations. It just means managing your mind with confidence.
Oh no, I got to ask that question a little bit more. But if you're adapting all the time, you're never at one place. You're not there long enough to see it happen, because you're just constantly changing, isn't it?
No, but adapting is but it's a more subtle thing. It's a big word, but it's like, if things are going great and I'm on a great date with someone that is awesome and everything's going well, I'm going to follow the plan. But if someone spills something on my lap, I decide to freak out. I decide to yell at the waiter. I decide to change my dress. I decide to take the dress off. If I do that with calmness and less stress, my life is better. It doesn't mean changing things all the time. It just means when crap hits you in the face and you need to adapt, you know how to do it with mind control. It's like meditation also does this. You don't have to do the improv training that I teach. You just have to train the mind to deal.
Okay. So when the situation calls for being adaptable, do you have the skill to adapt, or do you have the instinct to adapt? Do you have a way of thinking through that situation, is what you're saying, if I hear you right?
Well, it's listen, hear all the information, you accept the reality, and then you look positively with hope and a collaborative mindset to a solution, and saying, that woman ruined my dress. I'm going to be grumpy for the next 2 hours. Great, ruin your whole night. The other way would be positive and say, I get to buy a new dress. It's just a tiny 1% mind shift in most situations that makes you find the more possible, collaborative, positive way to deal with a difficult situation. It's a positive mind frame. It's a way to see what others aren't seeing. It's a way to innovate when people see a brick wall. It's a 1% tweak.
Nice. Adaptability basically gives us choices, and we like choices. So if you need choices, you need to be adaptable, because if what's not working, you need to figure out something else, right? So that's what you're saying. So if you want choices, be adaptable. And if you want to know how to be adaptable, click Jessica.
Yeah. Jessica, before you leave us, any last words or any thoughts that you like to leave with our viewers and our listeners?
I love Malaysia, and I will be back. And the adaptation of the food and the cultures and the tolerance and the respect is something that the world can really learn from you. And I look forward to following you guys on LinkedIn and learning how women lead in your culture and how you manage challenging situations. And thank you for being you and being strong and motivating the rest of us.
Thank you, Jessica, for joining us.
On behalf of all Malaysians, I accept all the compliments.
And as a former Malaysian, I will acknowledge that you are. Bye, Jessica. We can just move you backstage while we close off the show. Okie dokie. Wow, we've had quite a lot to process, at least for me. That 1 hour went by very, very quickly. So lots of things that Jessica talked to us about, how to think about adaptability. And how adaptability, I think, comes in not different packages, but it has a different connotation, I think, to people just changing for the sake of changing. All right. So that was, I think, important. I think that's important for us to hear. Malar, anything to say before we close off for this week?
Yeah, I think my greatest, probably, if I need to summarize it in, I don't know, a line or two, is that
Hmm.
I think we probably didn't think of the context of adaptability very well. But I think with lab, Jessica gave us context as to really it is not changing for the sake of changing, but having adaptability as a resourcefulness for us to change when we need to change, and whatever that means to us in our lives and in the results that we actually want in our life. So it's a key competency that is required if you want to make the changes, you want to be resourceful, and you want to be hopeful, because at the end of the day, you have choices. I think that's my greatest takeaway in terms of context in all that she has said.
Okay. Very
With
nicely
that,
done, as usual.
we must thank our audience, whoever is still around
Yes.
with us, for
Yes.
adapting and adjusting your timing to, let us, take 6 minutes of your time. So until we meet you again next week with another interesting speaker, this
Not
is
speaker, it's a summary. We've come to the end of February already. Yeah, you see?
so.
Right. Yeah,
So,
very
and
fast.
so we will be back together, whoever the we are. We'll be back together again to give you the summary for the month. And till then, this is Malar from Awesome Malaysia.
And Shamini from Resilient Singapore and Thriving Singapore. Until we meet again next week for our summary program. Thank you very much for being with us. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.